Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE343, where I take old stories up and narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called A Cloak of Lies, written by AltCipher. The light stayed low to accommodate all the species. The envoy settled into their seats. Well over half the attendees wore environment suits tailored to their respective homeworlds. The Dragal wore a tiny meter-tall powered suit to fight against this world's high gravity. The massive stone graphene carried hundreds of kilos of extra mass strapped to the suit like toadstools growing from a mossy log. The multi-limb horse twitched in its environment suit at being in such an open room, while the lupine Valeka could barely contain its anxiety at being in so crowded of quarters. A dozen or more other species brought back their own primordial instincts to be in that room. "Your attention, please," the moderator, a tall, willowy Sakura, with a surprisingly deep baritone voice, spoke. They were all translating into the commerce language. Primitive though it was, the commerce language is one in which all species could operate. The room slowly settled as predators and prey found their seats next to each other. The room was silent, save for the various whirs, clinks, grinds, and miscellaneous sounds from the environment suits. "Thank you," the moderator said. His pale skin and thin body reminded more than a few attendees of the deep-water prey of their homeworlds. "We know why we have gathered. Humans!" A dull roar of approval and grumbling ascended from the assembled. There was much looking around at each member's neighbors to ensure everyone was suitably aligned. The moderator raised his lithe arm and ghostly hand in silence. "Yes," he said, "the scourge of these humans plague us all. They colonize on our sacred worlds. They sell our children useless trinkets. They show up at our hospice with their supposed medicine." Some species knocked on the tables to show their support. Some species howled, and some stomped their feet. Regardless of the particulars, each envoy endorsed the moderator. "Bzz. Point of order, Master Moderator, point of order." A meter-tall Floy was trying to catch the moderator's attention. "We recognize the ambassador from Floy," the moderator called as the room pulled itself back in order. "Thank you, Master Moderator," the Floy said. Its translator had a peculiar bark of static when it first started up. The Floy has always been at the edge of survivability, so luxuries like fully functional translators were few and far between. "Master Moderator, we have all agreed to abide by the standard parliamentary procedures, even though this is the most irregular and ad hoc assemblage." "Sweat it out," the graphene delegate barked from under his massive weight of adjuster. Yes," the smaller Floyd responded. "That is to say, as moderator, it is inappropriate for you to deliver such speeches, and we should table comments until old business has been disposed and new business has been addressed. This'll give—" "Your comments are noted," the moderator said, his face held impassive. "The chair calls the esteemed representative of the Manchu Union for their report." The moderator sat down, but kept an evil gaze locked on the Floy. "Thank you, Master Moderator," the Manchu representative said. She stood in place and addressed the crowd. "As the moderator said," she said, sparing a glance towards the Floy, "these humans have been troublesome, to say the least. Their list of crimes and offenses surely needs no. Our union, along with the support from more than a few of our brother races, begins a campaign of harassment against these vermin. First, a number of their outlying colonies went missing, shall we say. The Manchu representative grinned at a few of her co-conspirators. Second, one of their largest colonies, called something horrible in that brutish tongue of theirs, was the victim of a most unfortunate asteroid collision. Total loss of the colony. Quite a shame that their early warning systems are so primitive that they simply overlooked a flying mountain crashing into their world." Another conspiratorial smirk and glance around the room. She continued, "Finally, nearly every species represented here has their own undesirable elements in some fashion or another. We have coordinated seemingly random attacks on human shipping lanes. If they were to investigate, all they would find is a series of unconnected piracy attacks. Life away from whatever damp mud puddle spawned them may simply be too much for them." The room was overcome with a brief moment of laughing or laugh analogues from the member species. The Manchu representative let the adulation wash over her. Her superiors would hear of this, of the glory she brought to the Union and their house, and she would be rewarded. A palace, at least. Dozens of servants, respect amongst the council, and all for destroying this new and insignificant race. In that instant, she knew that she was the luckiest being alive.
"Well done, Manchu Union," the moderator said. "With your talents, leading and organizing our efforts, we have no doubt the human menace will be eradicated before the next great turn."
A round of applause swept the auditorium, and the Manchu Union representative could fairly feel her face glow with pride. "Point of order, Master Moderator," the troublesome Floy had spoken up once again, before the applause had even died out. The moderator bit back 100 devastating retorts and simply nodded to the gadfly. "We are heartily gladdened by the Manchu Union's efforts and results in dealing with this, as you call it, human menace. But we of the Floy feel compelled to request, by the what authority, that these events transpire. We were made aware of no call to the council, and we have seen no minutes which indicate a quorum was attained before debate engaged. We ask for the—"
"Enough!"
the moderator's voice rebounded off the walls.
"We have been more than patient with the delegate from Floyd, but enough is enough. We will not be mired in procedures and paperwork. The humans pose a real and continuing threat to every species here. This is not the time to succumb to formalities."
"Besides, we're not even that dangerous," a small voice from the rear of the assembly said in a sudden quiet. Every head and sensory organ turned to see who had spoken. A Versh in its fully sealed environment suit sat patiently as the room turned to face it. A moment later, the Vresh stood up, and the environment suit shed the outermost layer, revealing a much thinner bipedal mammal underneath, its face looking out through a transparent faceplate. "Thank you for coming together like this," the new speaker said. "It cuts down on travel time when we can all talk together at once. My name is Sarah, and I'm a human." The room erupted into shouts and commands. Some weapons appeared on or near the appendages of several delegates. Recriminations and blame flew through the air like dust in a tornado. Each delegate looked from one to another in fear, in anger, in confusion. They all wanted answers and reassurance.
"Order! Order!" the moderator shouted.
The human stood with her hands folded in front of her, watching the assembly decay. She counted at least a dozen weapons aimed at her, and she assumed many more were unrecognizable.
"Sergeant-at-Arms, take this human into custody," the moderator ordered. "Make sure it doesn't have any tricks or weapons."
"I'd like to address the group," Sarah said. She heard flicks and whines from weapons subtly shifting as they prepared to fire.
"Murderess, do you wish to speak?"
The moderator's shock carried over through the translation. "Yes, I do," Sarah said. "You all came together to destroy my people, and I'd like a chance to speak for us." "Master Moderator," the Floy envoy said, "parliamentary procedures dictate that—"
Yes, the moderator said.
His eyes stayed locked on the human, and the Floy with its procedures was less of an annoyance than only a few minutes ago. The moderator stared at the human. His brain was still trying to wrap itself around the idea of a human being here, much less that it wanted to speak. After several moments, the moderator said,
"Very well, human. You may speak, though your life may still be forfeit after."
"Thank you, Master Moderator," Sarah said. She tried to put a pleasant look on her face, but was worried with how each species would interpret it. So she kept her teeth showing to a minimum and didn't hold eye contact too long. "First, we'd like to apologize for any misunderstandings that might have arisen. We honestly were only trying to be good neighbors. As I'm sure you all know, humans have not been off our homeworld for very long, so this is all quite new to us. And so I offer our most sincere and humble apologies. If you don't want our aid or manufactured goods, we'll absolutely stop them." The weapons hadn't lowered, but they also hadn't fired. Sarah considered this a win for the moment and pressed on. "Second, while I'm sure the delegates from the Manchu Union," the Floyd representative said. "Seriously?" Sarah asked. "Okay." The delegate from the Monkey Union said they had launched a few hidden attacks on us. It was due to those attacks that we eventually found out about this gathering. We did lose communications with a few colonies. Someone had sabotaged a comm relay. Whoever it was apparently didn't know a great deal about technology. I'm told that we had communications restored in 6 hours. Sarah made it a point to not glance at the Manchu Union representative as she spoke. Sarah continued on. The asteroid that the delegate spoke of was quite a disaster. The outpost, not a full colony, was evacuated 2 weeks before impact. The only things left behind were a few automated monitoring systems. I'm told that data was opened up a dozen new lines of inquiry in geology, planetology, plate tectonics, and a handful of other sciences. Whether or not it was a natural phenomenon, the asteroid strike on a minor outpost turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Sarah thought she caught a hum of whisper conversation at the edge of the assembly, but ignored it. While she had their attention, she intended to milk it for all she could. Finally, the piracy attacks. Yes, we had noticed an uptick in attempted robberies, which is why our merchant vessels were immediately given military escorts when traveling through troubled areas. Those of you who sent ships to harass our shipping lanes, I would ask if you've heard from them recently. A few of the weapons were beginning to drop and drift away from targeting Sarah. Their attention was on her words. So, she said, we are happy to work with each and every one of you for mutually beneficial agreements, including simply leaving you alone. However, we will not allow our people to be attacked. I want to be very clear about this. We are not looking for a war. We don't want to have to firebomb your colonies. We don't relish the thought of dropping antimatter pods on your homeworlds. We don't want to sterilize your farmlands with X-ray lasers. We don't want to kill an entire generation of your people. Sarah let her words hang in the air for a moment. We want to be your friends. But if we are to be enemies, know that we've invented forms of warfare for which you do not even have words. Again, we apologize for any offenses we may have given. The assembly stared at her, and the weapons slowly lowered. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.